Hey, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Molly, and I have more questions to answer for you about this world of astrology and some of my experiences to share with you that I hope benefit you and give you more insights into this world, especially at a professional level. So I have some questions here from you, and I'm just going to dive right in, with the first one being, what is the hardest part of being an astrologer? There could be many answers to that. There could be many answers. But the first thing that came to mind for me, and this is at a personal level of what I've experienced, are when I have what I call recovery sessions. And this is back when I was doing one-on-one client sessions. I don't have time anymore. But this is when people would reach out to me because they had a traumatic astrology reading. And this happened 3, 4, 5 times at least. And it was a lot, because what happens is the individual is not feeling empowered. They didn't feel like they got value or what they needed from a session. And these particular experiences I had were when people had a session with another astrologer and it traumatized them. And specifically, this is when people were told something about their energy was not good, or you're going to have a hard life, or something that was a little bit brutal or perhaps difficult to digest. Now, let me be objective and say, I don't know what those full conversations were. I don't know what the astrologer said, because there could be a difference between what someone says and what the individual hears, or how they interpret it, how they receive it. So there's many variables here. But these were some of the hardest things, is that people would come to me and they'd be like, I just had a session with an astrologer and she told me that I'm pretty much a bitch and I'm going to be a bitch the rest of my life, and that this is something I just have to work with. So did the astrologer say that? I don't know, but that's how they took it, right? That's how they received it. So essentially what someone is looking for is a return to loving themselves, accepting themselves, knowing themselves, and they felt damaged by something. So however that unfolded, I don't have all the details, but it's hard then when you're like, okay, no, let's focus on this. This is another interpretation. This is another way to look at it. This is what you can do. So it's about reframing it in a way that returns someone to their power, to their sense of self, to what they can work with, what they're meant to be aware of, how they can heal, all those big things. Because people want a session. Usually there's a reason why somebody wants an astrology session. Maybe they're going through something hard. They're going through a difficult phase. They want to learn what they're supposed to heal or move through. They want to know what's coming up. I mean, there's so many reasons why people have astrology sessions. And I feel like what you're also looking for is some kind of empowerment, reassurance, guidance, practical information. This is where you also notice the person's Mercury. Because the Mercury sign is how you're going to think about the words that someone says. It's how you're taking in the information and you're like, okay, this is how this person's going to understand it. So if you're talking to someone who has Mercury in Capricorn, that's going to be very different than if you're talking to somebody with Mercury in Aries or Mercury in Scorpio. So you're talking to their Mercury sign. So when I've had these, I said, recovery sessions, it was often to get someone back into their sense of self-love, self-acceptance, to let them know that, you know, again, I wasn't a part of that conversation. I don't know what the astrologer said or what they were meaning to say, but here's another way to look at it. Here's another way to think of it. I mean, I'm not kidding. People were in a panic. I've had some panic calls. I've had people that were really just dumbfounded. So what you can do in those situations is return to the fact that every astrological sign is a full spectrum. It's a full spectrum of energy. And even when you look at parts of yourself that maybe were immature when you were younger, or not very evolved, or not very conscious, you always can expand that. You always can grow that and develop that. And this woman who she had like 4 or 5 planets in Scorpio. And so, of course, there's a lot that she's feeling there and a lot that comes up. And so then we focus on, okay, but these are the strengths of Scorpio. Like, this is the energy and that you're working with, the alchemy, what you're evolving, also emotional management and what you're doing about that. So I feel like this is where the astrologer is many things. You're many things. Like, you're a counselor or a therapist, and you're a guide, and you're an advisor, and you have different things that you pull on spiritually or energetically. So there's many things that can come into play here, but that personally has been one of the hardest parts of being an astrologer at times, is just getting someone back into a sense of feeling good about themselves if they've had something that potentially damaged them or felt traumatizing. It's returning them to, okay, this is another way to look at it. This is another way to see it. And that's where you can do a lot of good. You really can. And you can be very healing and very supportive of who they are, as well as provide a different perspective. So then the other question is, what's the best part of being an astrologer? And I guess that's part of this too, is that you help people know themselves in all their complexities. We are complex beings, so many layers, so many things about us that are individual and specific. And astrology is just this amazing tool that shows you more of who you are. And the thing I love about it is that it's constantly interesting, constantly fascinating. And you can look at your chart over and over and over again, and you'll see something new or different. You'll see something in a whole new way. And that's just the natal chart. I mean, you bring in transits, you bring in progressions, you bring in solar returns. I mean, there's always something more that shows you more of who you are. So it becomes very specific and individual, and it shows you your gifts. It shows you more about your energy. And then I love how people can start to work with that, which is why I even do this YouTube channel or my podcast. It's like how you work with it is going to connect you to a lot more of your power, your choices, your light, connects you to more of your own potentials, what you want to co-create, what you want to experience. I mean, there's a lot here. I also find that being an astrologer, it's something that keeps me on my toes. It's a lot. It's not easy. It's not easy. There's a lot to it, and that's what I love. I love that it's always something about the energies and the cycles that we get to work with, or understand what's happening, and to also know that it's part of a grander cycle. Like, it's not personal, even though it feels that way, and it can certainly show up that way at times. But there's things here that are really about your own empowerment and your own growth in this lifetime. So that would be one of the best things about being an astrologer, is opening people up to that part of themselves as one of these tools that is really beneficial for doing so. Okay, next question. Anything specific about astrology that you look forward to every week? It's about how everything is always evolving and changing. And it's very mentally stimulating for me. I find that it's really fascinating to look at it and see, okay, what's new, what's different, what's going on, what are the themes? It's always in motion, like literally, right? The planet's always in motion. So you're always able to see something new, similar to like a kaleidoscope changing, or just something different coming to light, especially if there's a dominant theme or something really big coming forward. I also have found that, so I was skeptical of astrology. There were phases of my life I was skeptical. I was like, I don't know. And I think that's healthy. It's healthy, right? It's healthy to like kind of step back and be like, we'll just see, I don't know. I think that's part of our human experience, to question things. Why not, right? But what I have found is that astrology keeps proving itself. These cycles keep proving itself. And it's when you know the themes, you know the energies, you know what's going on, then you see it. You don't always know how it's going to show up. Astrology will show you the when, it'll show you the timing and the themes of a cycle, but there's so many ways it can show up. So I find that to be really fascinating, is that even when I stepped away from astrology, kept coming back to it because it was so damn reliable. And I'll tell you that. The other thing about it is the bigger picture is that if it wasn't reliable, it would have left our human interest centuries ago. But it's still here. It keeps demonstrating its value, its worth. It keeps showing up as being beneficial and providing us with guidance and insights and for the long term. And there's more things at play. And specifically, I think of global consciousness and what energies are on the planet and how we are a very aware species right now. Like, we have much more conscious understanding of so many things that can work in our favor. And then you add in the astrology, the energy cycles, it's really expansive. So I feel like astrology is just very exciting. It's been awesome to see it grow, especially in the past 10 years. And it's going to continue to be something that will guide us because it always has. And sometimes even in hindsight, we just see how it's clicked or how it's shown up. So that's something that I look forward to about astrology, is that it's this beautiful navigation system that keeps proving itself, even when I didn't want it to. Oh, you see certain transits coming up and you're like, maybe it's wrong. But then you see how, okay, there's benefits, or there's something you're learning, or you're growing, and you're ready for it. You're ready for it. So it's a pretty cool way to experience the world and to experience the energies that we're moving through in this lifetime. Do you have any advice for new astrologers? So much advice. Always be learning. Okay, I'll say this. You're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with people's energies. You're dealing with their hearts and their minds. You're dealing with their livelihood. People come to you for advice. And it's one thing when we look at a natal chart. It's a wonderful way that we all get started in astrology. We start with our own natal charts, then we move on to someone else's, we play around, and then you move on to people you don't know, right? And then you're diving into the natal chart. Then it becomes exponentially more complicated when you bring in transits, transiting planets. Then you can go to progressions. Then you can look at solar return energies. Then you can look at multiple layers of energies. So it becomes more complicated. You always need the basics. You will always reference the basics. And what you're connecting are those energies, those symbols, glyphs, the language of astrology to someone's real life. That takes time. Astrology is one of these professions where years count. Skin in the game matters. I measure the best astrologers by decades. My mentors, people I look up to, decades of doing this work. And it's similar to any other profession where you're dealing with human nature. There is no one answer. There's no clear-cut anything. You figure it out as you go. And it's when you're in conversation with a client or with a person that the energy comes alive. You hear more about their experience. I mean, there's things in a chart you don't see, that you won't know until you're in conversation, until that dialogue begins. So don't make assumptions. Be open to conversations. Be open to collecting information. Hear where someone's coming from. Hear what their life experiences have been. Hear where they're at. Because it could be very different than what you first expect or assume. So you're really in this ongoing dialogue with people. The other thing is that I compare it to even if you go through medical school, and you graduate, and you're a doctor, you go into residency, right? Then you're like on the scene, in the hospital, talking to patients, but you're learning from mentors. You're learning on the spot. You're learning on the job because there's things that come up you have no way of understanding. Like, it's one thing when, you're in medical school or any school, you're reading the books, you're understanding it, you're taking in the knowledge, but then when you start applying it, It's a whole nother thing. So my advice, I guess I have ongoing advice, just some of the things off the top of my head is that you're dealing with people's lives. That's serious. You don't know what their lives are until you start talking to them. And you can take all the knowledge from a book and apply it, but you're still going to be learning and you're still going to be understanding and seeing things in a new way. So I guess what I'm saying is maybe this goes back to the first question too, about these clients who came to me because they felt traumatized or damaged, where there's things that you're going to be moving through that you want to be very clear on what you're saying, on what you're opening up, on what you're expressing to people. And there's a lot of responsibility with this work. And it's like something you learn as you go. You get more skin in the game and you're like, okay, wow. Like there's a responsibility here that is bigger than what I first thought. Another thing is it's really beneficial to learn from different types of astrologers. I have found people to be so generous, even if it's through their online material, their books, whatever they're doing, like there's knowledge to share. And you think about how astrology is very Aquarian. There's a lot of diversity. There's diversity in perspectives and language and opinions and experience, and that's to our benefit. So keep learning, stay open to the different types of astrology you can learn, because you might find that there's a particular kind that just clicks for you, that just clicks. That's what happened for me with intuitive astrology, which I didn't even know was a thing until 2011, when I had a reading with one of my mentors who's an intuitive astrologer, and she opened up all this world of understanding things that just clicked for me, but I didn't learn it. You know, I didn't even know it was something. I didn't know it was a thing, but it just fit for me. So you're looking to find what naturally fits for you. And you could find that there's a particular niche. You know, you could find that you're really interested in medical astrology, or that there's other specifics that you're really fascinated with. So stay open to that, because that can be something that really benefits you and also supports your energy. Also supports how you're naturally here to connect with people and what you're designed to offer them. So, I mean, I guess there's a lot of advice for anyone who's doing anything new, but you do want to keep learning, stay open, and basically, you know, stay aware of how astrology is also your teacher. You know, it's teaching you so much about yourself, and your own astrology chart is going to show you your own strengths. Okay. And here's the last question. When did you learn about starseeds? Yeah. That was also in 2011. I had an astrology session. It was a galactic astrology with Lavendar at starseedhotline.com. I know many of you know her. And in 2011, she read my chart in a new way, looking for star markings. All of this was completely foreign to me. I didn't get it. I kind of didn't get it. I was like, okay, I'm just open to it, right? Because I trusted that I was supposed to understand this now, that I was ready for it, even though mentally I wasn't clear. There was a part of my consciousness that was ready. And it just was amazing. It was this whole other interpretation of the chart. Something strongly resonated. She's very psychic. She's very intuitive, so it was right on. And that opened me up to the whole starseed experience, what that means, what that's about how your energies are from other places in the galaxy. They came here to Earth, and you're part of the different energy signature that's needed on the planet to bring in these new energies, right? That's just very brief rundown of it. And then I started to learn even more about starseeds through various years and various things. Lavendar and her team, Ariel, they were very helpful in showing more about starseed markings, what those are about in a chart. If you want any of those kinds of readings, please check out their site, because they offer those readings. They now have a variety of astrologers who are trained in that particular type of reading style. But that really opened me up to all of astrology from that bigger galactic viewpoint. And through the years, it just really increased and it became something that strongly resonated. I have strong starseed markings in my chart. So that's why if you have that too, there's something that speaks to you or shows you more of your energy and more of what you're capable of. So I find that the starseed connection has been really fascinating. It takes it to another level, another place, another energetic consciousness that is really cool to work with because, again, it gives you a new angle on your own chart. And it's something to continue to explore and develop. And of course, it gets activated during various transits, various eclipses, progressions, solar return things, all kinds of things. So I find that the starseed markings are just another way to understand more about your energy, your potentials, and what you're naturally here to express and experience. So very good stuff. And I'm still learning. Like, that's kind of how I approach astrology. I'm still learning. I'm always learning. And that's what I like about it too, is that it's pretty much never ending knowledge. And there's always more to explore or check out. So it's been quite a ride, and it will continue to be quite a ride. So I hope this supports you or gives you some more understandings into this world of astrology, as well as perhaps how you can use it in your own life and what resonates for you now. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll be back here soon with another video for you. In the meantime, please check out what I have here on my YouTube playlists, and I hope more of those videos help you with your own chart. I'll see you back here soon.